Hello everybody, you're watching Urbante by Dante, and today we're going to be building the city of Chattamaugua. This is a brand new series based in the southern United States. This area is going to be based in the Appalachian Mountains. If you know anything about United States history, you would know that the southern United States was the site of the bloodiest war in United States history, the American Civil War. I grabbed this height map from a real place based in Tennessee, but this area was uninhabited. In addition to that, this area was not the site of a battle. However, in my city, in this map, I did create a fictional battlefield to add to the narrative, the character, and the history to this place, which you'll see in just a moment once we get past this bypass with cues going through the intersections. By the time this map gets to you, that should be corrected. For you history buffs out there, this was the site of one of the battles during Sherman's march to the sea before Sherman could get to the city of Chattanooga and then continue his campaign to Atlanta and then Savannah and go up to the coast of the Carolinas. He had to get through this city first, which is the city of Leesburg. This was the site of a historic battle, as you can see here. The name of this battle was the First Magua. In the battle, Union troops approached. They found Confederate forces trenched on the other side of this field. They volleyed artillery at each other, and after a long and hard battle, there were numerous casualties, as you can see here, because these are graves that were dug for those individuals, some of them unidentified until this very day. Once the Union forces were able to push through the Confederate defenses, they then passed through this area here, which is called Pigeon Pinch. Once the Union troops got over the gorge, they then pushed on to the town of Leesburg. This is where the Union troops then battered the city of Leesburg. One column went here to cross river to combat the town center of Leesburg, and then the other column went down to the railroad tracks, the terminal, to destroy their factory and their railroad supplies. Meanwhile, the first Union column is going head-to-head with the Confederate forces just across the bank of this creek. The creek is about waist deep, and the Union forces did have to fight tooth and nail in order to get through the Confederates' defenses. The Confederates made it hard for the Union troops to get over the creek by destroying the only bridge into the town. Once through the creek, the Union troops then went on to destroy the town. This is the town center where most of the commerce was conducted back in the day. There was a church that was preserved. Once through the main town, the Union troops then swept the countryside, as you can see with these beautiful views here. I think that's enough history for about 2 maps. Let's continue, sit back, and enjoy the rest of the map tour. Okay, here we have something special. This is a Native American burial ground. I wanted to make a site that Native Americans buried their lost ones, and I wanted to make it as realistic as possible. Unfortunately, it doesn't look like it's that realistic, but I think it accomplishes the job. Okay, I hope you enjoyed the tour. Because we're not playing with the Unlock All mod enabled, we're going to be starting our first main industry area here. I want to start a rock quarry right here, and our town is going to be situated somewhere close by. To start the entrance of our industry area, we're going to make roundabout, but first I need to make an intersection. Once my intersection is made, I'm going to then build with the roundabout builder. This is a mod that I pulled off of the Steam Workshop. But first I'm going to show you the mods that I have enabled. Feel free to pause the video if you need to read the mods. Okay, starting with the roundabout builder, we're going to go ahead and we're going to make a roundabout right here. I just want to make it a little bit smaller so it's not too large. Of course, we have trucks driving straight through the center of the roundabout. That's totally normal. What I want to do here is I want to start the entrance into my industry area. Now we're going to be building on this hillside. Unfortunately, I don't have the ability to landscape this yet. We do need to reach a population of 700 to get there. So we're going to coin that for now. And what we're going to do is we're going to take our road and we're going to start our city somewhere nearby. We don't want the city right on top of the industrial use. That's going to be really bad for pollution. So I think we're going to start here. And I think we're going to end up working our way further inside of these areas where we will then be connected with our main industry area, which is our rock quarry. I do want the, I don't have the ability to show you any of the views yet. Unfortunately, we do have to get that unlocked through vanilla progression. Once again, when you're starting without the Unlock All mod enabled, it is a rocky start. Let me go ahead and move that down. Whoops, didn't mean to do that. And let's go ahead and start our arterial road. I want to connect off of this national road. We're going to hit this intersection right here with the roundabout. I'm going to make it that size. I think that's great. And this will be a good entrance into the city. We're going to extend this arterial road coming off the roundabout for another construction cost of 400 units. I think it's a great place. So there's trees in our road. Oh my lord. What we're going to do about that is we're going to correct that. We're going to go into our menu and we're going to disable tree anarchy. Alright, so I'm going to upgrade this road, get rid of those trees. Oh, what? I'm going to delete those. And I'm going to continue this forward. Nope, quick save. Unfortunately, it looks like the trees are still popping up out of our road, so I just want to make sure that my settings are correct. And unfortunately, they weren't correct. Toggle collision was off, so we enabled that, and now we should be good. What I want to do is I want to upgrade this road, and I'm just going to see what my options are here from the start. So maybe I should go with this 2-lane road with trees down the median. I don't know if I'm feeling that. So instead I'm going to use this 4-lane road that came with one of the vanilla updates. Yeah, I like that. I think that's going to be a great entrance into our first town starting this region. Now, the question is, how are we going to continue this road? We don't have the high terrain view available to us yet. We do need to unlock that. So we're just going to kind of eyeball this terrain, this topography, and try to follow these slopes as best as we can without those views, because we want to follow the terrain as best as possible. That is very hilly. It's not something that I would prefer, but we're going to correct that. Okay, using our 2-lane road with trees in the median, we're going to make an intersection here off of this arterial road. We're going to make a collector, and we're going to try to connect this up as best as we can. So what we're going to do is we're going to take our curve, our freeform tool mode, and we're just going to send this up the side of this slope right. So now that that's done, I want to connect this up. I do have to delete a segment just so I can make sure that it meets in a nice smooth way, and I think that's good. All right, look at that view. That is that's pretty good. I'm happy with that. So with that being said, now that our collector is established, we can go ahead and we can take our dirt roads so we can save up construction costs, and we can continue to place this down. And I want to go with a gridded pattern. In order to do that, I'm going to need to bring it in as tight as I can on this hill. I know it's difficult right now. Whoops, didn't mean to do that. Unfortunately, when you're using the free-form tool mode, and if you're trying to make it straight, sometimes it will do that. It'll pinch the node and it'll make it look all weird like that. So you do have to switch the snap to the road type to straight. And I'm getting a bridge right here. I really don't want a bridge, so I'm going to turn off the snap twos. I'm going to make my elevation step to be forced down at ground level because we don't want a bridge. We're going to delete that segment so we can line it up, and that one too. All right, 240 construction cost sounds good. 220 there, looks good to me. And I think this will give me everything that I need to be able to continue making my gridded development pattern. Once we connect there, we do notice that this is rather hilly, and hills and grids don't really match well. So I'm probably going to be hitting this with our network multi-tool to correct this and smooth it out. I'm going to send this road down to 60 units. That one's going to be 200, and I think that's going to be 300. Yeah, that looks good. And the reason why I'm going with these odd ratings is because I want there to be enough nodes so that network multi-tool can help me with these slopes and make the terrain a little bit more user-friendly, considering that we don't have the ability to see our terrain height yet at the moment. I'm going to continue this road further down along that riverbank. That's going to be a special place later on. Now what I'm going to do is I'm going to take my network multi-tool, I'm going to set the slope, and with the power invested in me through editing, we're going to be done just about now. Okay, this is a good start to our foundation for the city. I think what we're going to do is we're going to start making some connections on local roads so we can start zoning this once we get our utilities connected. I do want to make this as great of a grid as possible, but since we are on a hill, we do have to do some wonky things. I have a vision for this town. In order to fulfill that vision, I'm going to make a development pattern that allows me to put 2x2 buildings in through zoning. So stand by while we make that happen. Now that our road network is established, at least the first part is done, we're going to work on our utilities. I want to start with a water tower, and I'm going to figure out a location where I can put this water tower. I thought that the interior of the town would be good, but now that I'm thinking about it, I want this to go close to the entrance of the town, our main arterial road, and the reason why is I want to signify that this is a special location, that this is an established town that the drivers are now driving into. So I'm going to set it right here. I think that's a great place for it. Now that that's planted, I'm going to go into my road networks. I'm going to connect this to the road so that way there's a way to get to the water tower if there needs to be service on it or for any other reason. Now that we have our water utilities established, I want to go ahead and start making my water pipe connections. Of course, we want those to go under the road, just as they're supposed to be. I'm going to speed this up so you don't have to go through this with me. This did take a little while. If you like to put your utilities under the roads like they should be, you know that this can take a while. So you turn off your snap twos and you make your necessary connections. I grabbed a number of assets off the workshop and I'm planning on implementing all of these at some point in time. So I'm going to look for a sewage treatment system, and I realize that I don't really have any good ones at the moment. I will grab some more, but for now we're going to start with the Eco Advanced Inland Sewage Treatment System that came with the Sunset Harbors DLC, and I really need to look for a place to put this. I went small for this foundation, this starting sewage system, and the reason why is because I want to save as much money as possible. The large inland sewage treatment system is more expensive, and I really didn't need to spend that money right now, especially not this early in the game. We will end up upgrading our sewage systems in a later episode, but for now we're going to start here with one of the vanilla assets. We're going to place that right there into that hillside. Starting with our utilities, we're going to make a power plant, and I have some custom assets from the workshop for a power plant, but none that I'm really excited about. So I'm going to go with my vanilla wind turbines eventually in another episode when we're working on the electrical, the power infrastructure. We're going to replace these with custom vanilla assets. We may even move the location of this power plant, but it's green energy, and I think that's a good start for right now. We're going to make our connections with our utility lines, transmission lines, and we're going to send those down the length of the town following the riverbank, and we're going to connect our water tower with that. Unfortunately, these are vanilla mechanics. Eventually I will end up fixing these. So now that we have our utilities connected, we're going to go ahead and start zoning in these lots. I mentioned that we're going to start with a 2x2 development pattern, so that's what you're seeing here. I sped this up so you don't have to go through this, the same thing that I went through. Zoning does take a little while, especially once you start playing the game of whack-a-mole, making the building spawn in that you want to spawn in. And until you get a reasonable population, you're not going to have the ability to really choose what style your district is. Matter of fact, you can't even zone the district. So we're going to be spawning in with whatever custom and vanilla assets the game decides to throw in there. Here, I'm going to start making our utility lines because I didn't realize that I had the game paused. So I was thinking to myself, why don't these buildings have power? What is wrong here? And then I realized, of course, the buildings weren't getting power because the game was paused. So as a result, I took my low power utility lines and I started lining the streets with those. I turned off my collision. I turned off the toggle collision, and I was sending the utility lines throughout the streets. And once again, I will end up deleting these, modifying these in some way, shape, or form in the future. But for now, that's where we are. I want to continue to send these low power utility lines throughout my arterial road. Now that I started, I just want to finish. I do have a dam in the middle of this segment, so the utility lines are going to go on the sidewalk of this this national road, and it's going to connect with the dam where it then feeds into the high power transmission lines. Going forward, we're going to finish up our zoning pattern, trying to stick as close as we can to that 2x2 lot size development pattern, which is what you're seeing here. We're going to start a few areas. One is going to be our downtown area. That road is going to be our feeder, our collector, and this road, these roads, I should say, are going to be the start of our first industry area. And it looks like I had toggle collision off, which is why we had trees coming through the road. I turned that off and I deleted those trees. Now I'm going to make the industry area connect eventually. But for now, we're going to start with the basics. So you'll notice that my money is actually going negative. I spent all of our starting money and we don't have any more money to build with. Thankfully, our population is increasing, and once our population gets to a certain point, the first milestone, we will be able to use some loans. And in the meantime, to generate some taxes, I'm going to zone commercial down there on that street where we will start the entrance into our downtown. All right, we have reached Little Hamlet. Little Hamlet is going to give us a number of things. We now have taxes and loans, as well as garbage, healthcare, and educational services. And we have a number of facilities accompanying those services, like the medical clinic, elementary school. We now have a landfill site, and we can start using these facilities in our town, which I'm planning on doing. Let's scroll down and see what else we got. And we have a number of other schools. So let's go ahead and take out our first loan, and we're going to take the $20,000 loan, and we're going to repay that over a 52-week period of time. That's 1 year. We got the money that we need to be able to lay out the rest of our utilities so these buildings don't get abandoned. I'm going to turn off my step 2s, and I'm going to make these connections here. Once again, I sped this up for you so you don't have to watch me painfully make these connections, these utility connections underneath the road. Now that these buildings have the utility connections, I can continue to zone in. I want a 1x2 development pattern for commercial on our main street. But first, I need to increase the taxes so we have the money that we need going forward to have smart development. And the residents of the city, this town, will be benefited by this eventually, and you'll see why in later episodes. With that being said, these buildings are not the theme that I want. In order to make this district have a certain theme, we do need to reach a population of 440, so we're going to continue to work there. And you're noticing that that building has it doesn't have enough workers. It was requiring too many workers that my town can supply, so we deleted that building and we zoned it a smaller lot. And sticking with the 2x2 development pattern, we deleted some of those larger buildings on those larger lots, and we're going to let the smaller buildings zone in. Once I get the ability to landscape, I'm going to build my downtown in this area. I want to start making local connections here. Town hall is going to go somewhere up there on that hill. Oh, would you look at that? There looks like a wolf. There is a wolf and a cougar here in this area. So we do have cougars in the Appalachian Mountains, or I should say in the southern region of the United States. They're not very common, but you do see them, and you really won't find any wolves down in the south. Instead, what you'll find is coyotes. So please just imagine that that's a coyote. Now we're going to make our connection here from our main street down to that local road, and we're going to delete that building. I don't know why that's spawning in there, but we're going to fix that. And we're going to continue that 1x2 pattern, and we're just going to let this fill in as we zone. And in order to make them come in the way we want, we need to give them like a space apart so they can zone the way we need them to. And I don't want anything under the utility lines. Going forward, these are now going to fill in, and we're just going to give them that time. Okay, these buildings look like they're filling in pretty nicely. Our main street is going to be just a lovely place once it's fully built and buildings are filled in. I'm going to continue to zone some of these buildings, these lots of land, so we have the growth that we need to go on to the next episode. Once again, just zoning in some commercial up there, and I don't want to go too far down that road because this is getting into a local connection, and I don't want to have too many buildings on that slope. Continuing with the 2x2 development pattern, we're just going to zone in some residential, but not get too deep into that hill because I don't want it to look too wonky. The game doesn't really do well with building on slopes. Hopefully Cities Skylines 2 fixes that issue and it makes it a little bit more realistic to build on hills. We're going to go over here and just finish up that pattern so we can have some sort of density. So stand by while I zone these lots. Now that that's done, I wanted to check on the progress of our main street, and just like before, it is looking beautiful as ever. Once it's fully zoned in, it's going to be a special place. I'm planning on putting like tables and chairs up front and making it a pedestrian friendly area. But until then, let's go head over to our industrial zone and let's continue to zone in some of these lots. I do want to make this as a realistic place as possible. So once we unlock some parks and once we're able to put some parking in here, we will. And we'll do some terraforming as well. So the lots look more realistic rather than this vanilla or near vanilla custom setup that we have now. I think now is a great time to upgrade the roads since we have some sort of layout, and I'm going to go with the 2-lane industrial road for that segment. We'll go through later and we'll name these, but I think I'll stop right there at that thinner 4-lane road intersection. And to continue on to Main Street, we'll have to weigh our options. So we have the 2-lane road with median and trees and bicycle lanes, and we also have the regular 2-lane road with grass. If I go into our menu here, we can look at our plain roads. We have the plain 2-lane road and a 2-lane road with wide sidewalks, medians, a 4-lane road. I think what we're going to do is we're going to go with the regular 2-lane road with the median, and I don't want to demolish those buildings, so I'll have to turn on or turn off collision, so that way when we upgrade these roads, our buildings won't go poof. There we go. I can turn collision back on because we don't want trees to come up through the road, and I think that's a good start to Main Street. I can turn my snap twos on, and I'm sorry, I can turn my snap twos off, and I can continue to zone these roads. And to upgrade these roads, I was using the 2-lane road with wide sidewalks at first, and eventually we're going to end up changing these. Great, this one, that one, that one, that one, and all of these right here. That way we can have connectivity. I really don't want to have any interruptions in our paved road network. So we're going to upgrade on this hill, followed by that road connecting to our collector, and we're going to upgrade all of these. That is a really steep hill, so we're going to fix that. We're going to pull out our network multi-tool, select that node and the node connecting to the collector, and hit enter. And that makes a much more conformed road that is easier to drive, bike, and build on. I think that that's a good start because our downtown is going to go up on that hill. Looking at our options, we can upgrade this to the 2-lane road with median. Oh, look at that. We achieved Worthy Village. So that gives us the ability to get districts, policies. We can now take out another loan. We have district specializations and services policies. We also have the ability to utilize fire and emergency networks and unique buildings. We can even start our industry areas. Going down, we have a number of buildings that are available to us. We'll continue to zone to upgrade that road to the 2-lane road with the median. That way we are maintaining a connection between local streets and main. I want to look at our zones now that our districts now that we are able to unlock that. I'm going to turn this into our first town, our official first town, by zoning it. And I'm going to need your help to figure out what we're going to call this place. That zoned in as Kent Heights, and the secondary town right here is going to be its own area, and that's called Brook Hills. Instead of Kent Heights, let's name this Highland. And of course, we can change this as we go along once I get a good name for these towns. So I went with Highland at first and South Highland below that. And for the district styles, we're going to look at what we have available. And I think I'm going to go with the US college town theme, and I'm also going to go with the US Main Street theme. It looks like I missed US Main Street, so our commercials started despawning, and here's where I went back in and I selected US Main Street so we can save our commercial, our valuable commercial. Going to unpause this, and I'm going to let these buildings spawn in. And it looks like we have our first fire just down to the left. So that building is going to burn down without any assistance. We need to interact, and we need to create a fire station. And I'd rather do it now than later, because we'll end up with more problems if we don't. I thought I would go with that fire station, but because of the look of the buildings and the way we've been building, I think it'd be best to use this industrial fire station that I pulled off the workshop. About across the street from where we made that fire station, I'm going to make a connection into another phase of the neighborhood. I'm going to turn on my snap 2s, and I'm going to send this road. Of course, I'm going to enable toggle collision so we don't have trees going through the road, but I'm going to send this up the hillside, and I'm going to start making some local connections off of this road. But first, I need to hit this with some network multi-tool so it's more uniform and the slopes aren't drastic. I don't want to build directly underneath the power lines, so I'm going to build a road adjacent to them, and we're going to go up that hill. I don't want to disturb the creek too much, so we're going to stop the road short of the creek, and we're going to make a connection there so we have a block. And I'm going to continue to make our local connections as we're building up this hill. What we don't want is we don't want to build too close to that zoned industry area, light industry area that we have next door. So to make this flow a little bit better, I had to delete that road and I had to curve this a little bit so it follows the slope in a better way. Now we're going to take our network multi-tool and we're going to hit this with the slope tool to make it a little bit more doable for us, especially because we're going to be building in a zone pattern, a 2x2 pattern. I'm going to take a road and send that up there so it's more friendly to the pattern that we want to follow. And of course, I gotta send my utilities on the road before I start my construction. I'm sorry, I had to use a little bit of eminent domain there. We're going to build underneath the power line, and we're also going to use our network multi-tool to slope this road in a better way so it makes it more doable for us. Now, I think that looks just fantastic. This is a good setup for some zoning, so we're going to zone some buildings back here. next to the power lines, not directly under them. Of course, we need to abide by local state laws. Most states don't allow you to build directly underneath power lines, so we're not going to do that. We're going to follow that 2x2 pattern as best as we can. We want to be as efficient as we can to make sure that we're fitting in as many buildings as possible. I think that's good the way it is for that road. We're going to continue on to some of these other branch connections, and we're going to just zone this in as we can. And it looks like we have some crime problems, so now is a good time to create our first police department. I'm just going to see what we have available. I do have a number of assets. I'm going to use this small police department. I think that's very fitting, and I'm going to change the police car to one of our custom assets. And I think I'm going to use a Ford Victoria, Crown Victoria, because this is a small town that we just started. I wouldn't think that the police department has that much of a budget. So we're going to wait here and we're going to watch this until one of our Crown Victorias spawns. And just like that, we now have ourselves a Crown Victoria responding to a call. So we're going to follow this car. I do have a mod enabled that would allow me to look at this car and first person view, but instead we're going to just follow it. It says it's responding to a call at the neighborhood shop. I wonder where that is. We definitely need some stop signs or some traffic. What is that? So it looks like Crown Victorias can fly. I know they're indestructible, but apparently they can also fly. And it looks like that's because our meat market, our neighborhood shop, is at the wrong terrain height from when we sloped this road with a network multi-tool. So we're going to come back here to this next phase, this phase of that neighborhood that we're building, and we're going to extend Highland further into South Highland, so our buildings can continue to be developed in the theme that we want them to be, and which is our U.S. college town. It looks like this area is having some difficulty spawning, so I just de-zoned one plot. Hopefully that works, and it allows those buildings to zone in. And I'm going to continue to zone these after I make a connection, which is right here. I'm going to send this segment straight. I'm going to delete that. First, I'm going to send this segment straight back, and I'm going to angle it so we're not going to hit the transmission line. Sorry if you hear that. There is a jet plane going right over my house. I do live next door to the busiest airport in the world, and I'm going to continue to zone these in so we have the density that we want in this phase. Density is great for a number of reasons, but I want this town to be as dense as possible, especially because this is our starter town, and it's going to be the first little city that we build in this series. And eventually what I'll do is I'll put some separation between that industry area and those houses on that street that's next to them. I think I pretty much gave up on making the development pattern 2x2 in this area. I just wanted them to zone in. I'm going to zone right here in back of Main Street, and I thought that I would zone on this hill, but instead I decided to delete that because it's not as realistic as if the houses would zone on another area. So this is going to be a connection into a high density area. I think maybe apartments. So we'll grab our roads and we'll send a connection back here following the banks of this creek, and I'm going to make it follow the shape of the land. We'll come back to that eventually, but for now, we are going to continue. There's a need for death care, so I took my graveyard and I'm going to be looking for a place to put this. I originally thought that it may be good to put it right here somewhere on the bank of this creek, but we really don't have the room for that. I don't want to destroy the creek, so I'm going to put it right over here and on my collector next to a local road. We now have our tiny town milestone, which gives us access to new features like our park, industry, pedestrian areas, and landscaping. We also have park policies. We have our fishing industry, our industry areas, and park plazas. This is going to be big for the next episode. First things first, let's go ahead and let's take out our roads. I'm going to go with our 2-lane road with trees, and I'm going to upgrade these roads to make them a little bit more lively, to make this place feel like a comfortable neighborhood where people actually live. And on top of that, we want to reduce as much urban heat island effects as possible, and trees do help us accomplish that goal. So we're going to go through and we're upgrading all of these roads that we can, these local roads that we can. This of course will remove parking from the roads, but that's a sacrifice that we're willing to make. For this particular road, I think what I'm going to do is I'm going to take my 2-lane road with the median and I'm going to upgrade that. Now that that's done, I'm going to grab my zoning tool and I'm going to fill all of this in with commercial, so our 1x2 development pattern can fill in and we can have nice wall-to-wall buildings lining our main street. Unfortunately, we don't build this way in the US anymore. We really should. We used to build this way before the age of the car, before people used to drive everywhere, and I would really like to get back to that, building these wall-to-wall buildings in our downtown centers. One thing I forgot to do is I forgot to make our buildings have random spawn levels, so I enabled that in the Highland District, and now our buildings will be zoning in from all different levels. Let's watch this as it fills in. I really hope you all enjoyed this first episode of Chattamaugua. Next episode, we're going to be continuing to build this town, and we're going to build the downtown. This is Dante with Urbante. Join me next time. Stand by for a city tour.